The best teams in the world are gathered here in Kuala Lumpur for the PUBG Mobile Club Open Fall Split Grand Finals. Yesterday on day 1, we saw Bigetron come out on top with one chicken dinner and plenty of kill points. Following them were Team Queso from South America and Entity Gaming from India. Day 2, action continues once again, so let's recap on all the action that went down on day 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, gamers, welcome to the PUBG Mobile Club Open 2019 Fall Split Global Finals, day number 2!
The first match of the second day, that is game 5 out of 16, played on Erangel. The plane path was rather skewed towards the east, with the plane going from Severny to Milta, but the circle went west, and once again we saw that awkward rotation that the teams had to do in the very first circle itself. In that complicated plane path, teams had to prioritize rotation over looting, and a few players even lost their lives in the rotation. All Rejection Gaming lost a player, even Penguin from EGC went down early in the process of securing compounds. We saw EGC Penguin dying so many times very early in the game, and this has been continuing since yesterday. The first big team fight happened at the foothills of Mount Everest as Queso challenged Top Esports for a compound. Queso started off with nades, and as soon as they got one knock, they tried to rush upstairs, but that turned out to be a heavy mistake. Top Esports got out of the houses and reverse pushed them from below, and that was everything that Top Esports needed. They had all of it going in their favor, but somehow they threw it away. Yala from Queso clutched out a 1 versus 3 to eliminate Top Esports, something that should have never happened. Entity showed us why they were amazing with their flanks, as they outsmarted, outmaneuvered and outplayed Kurt Squad in every possible way. We saw Ghatak get in towards the vehicles and use that to flank Kurt Squad from every direction possible, leaving them with no room to breathe and no cover to hide in. The shift of the circles was brutal, as the circle collapsed entirely upon the dockyard and one lone compound towards the west of the South George Pool dockyards. Unique control of that compound, and that created a lot of problems for all the teams who were entering from the west side. The final circle came up in no man's land, and Cloud9 were the only team that had some sort of the advantages, as they still had some cover of the docks and had 4 players alive as well. But then Mega Conquerors assembled cover from vehicles and plummeted every team as they tried to move into the open lands, and that's how Mega Conquerors won the chicken dinner in game 1.
Maybe the last man to stay alive to do it. Geek across the way, the road will be the decider here, but it's going to be you who have to cross it. Geek gets spotted out and he goes down him. And this is exactly what we want to see from Mega today.
Game number 6 was on Sandhawk, and as always, Sandhawk games are really chaotic. The circle fell upon the southern part of the map, and an interesting trio of fights happened towards the southeast side of Quarry. SouL had a compound on top of the hill. All Rejection Gaming, they tried to come in and challenge Team SouL, but then instead of fighting them, SouL decided to back away, and then they safely went away and took another compound at the bottom. A few minutes later, when All Rejection from top started fighting Team Yudu from there, that's when Team SouL decided to third party them and they pushed All Rejection Gaming. On the other side of the map, RRQ, EGC and Team Queso were locked in a 3-way battle. Queso backed away at the right time because the circle was shrinking and they decided to cut their losses short. But then RRQ, they were in trouble because they were not allowed to enter the safe zone as EGC was safekeeping them. RRQ was outside the play zone and EGC did not let them in, and hence RRQ had to take a lengthy rotation around the circle, which obviously burnt away most of their medicines. A full-blown team fight took place between SouL and Mega Conquerors in the warehouses, and at one point SouL had a 2-man advantage. Pons from Mega Conquerors, he was alone on his team and he was stuck in a 1 versus 2. But then SouL had some sort of a miscommunication and they did not trade frags, so instead of fighting Pons in a 1v2 situation, they ended up offering him 2 separate 1v1 fights, and Pons with his micro Uzi was able to clutch that round out for the team. Pons managed to single-handedly eliminate Team SouL, and SouL became the first team to get eliminated in the 16th place.
SouL around the corner, he's full HP or near enough. Certainly more than Pons anyway. The micro Uzi trying to rattle off the shots, is waiting for the reload. Nicely done, goes in for the trade. No, but it's not enough! Pons gets it done. SouL eliminated in 16th.
But then Even though Pons managed to keep his team alive, Mega Conquerors could not stay alive in the game for any longer because they had lost most of their armor and medicines in the fight against SouL. Then Kurd Squad came in and they finished up whatever was left of Mega Conquerors. In the final battle, 3 teams had the final fight. Top Esports had all their players alive, but then Bigetron had the high ground. Entity also were alive in the shadows, and Entity tried to score some points by attacking Top Esports, but then they got third-partied by Bigetron and hence Entity went out third. Luxy from Bigetron tried really hard to fight. Yesterday Luxy was able to clutch out a 1v3 fight and win the chicken dinner for his team, but this time he couldn't do it as Top Esports, the defending champions of the Spring Split, win their first chicken dinner.
Looks for one, takes it down. It's 1 versus 1 yet again. And Luxy, look at her take him. They can't get a bead on him. Luxy's in the grass. Can he come out? He can't. Swoops down. Swipes that chicken dinner.
Game 7, Miramar. I mean, we have seen that in Miramar, most of the teams usually just try to cut their losses and play for positions, and that's why we did not really see any major fights break out until the 5th circle. The first big 4 vs 4 fight happened between Cloud9 and Mega Conquerors. The North American team Cloud9 had a rough start yesterday, and today they made up for it in the 5th game in Erangel, but then they were looking to extend their lead even further, but Mega Conquerors rushed them together and team wiped Cloud9.
Fire goes down, the first knock of the fight goes over to Mega. No retribution either, not just yet anyway. Rod Fiat looks for the off angle, spots uneven in the ditch, but no, the flick is strong. And Beowulf goes down as well. It's just uneven now against the world. Mega will be able to wipe C9 out of the bunker. They have been unearthed.
When Mega Conquerors wiped out C9, their next challenger, Team Unique, was waiting for them right around the mountain. Unique almost managed to win, but somehow Online 24 from Mega Conquerors was able to clutch out the fight by playing around the edges of the smoke and using the terrain to his advantage.
And Online holds it down. Yasha looking to try and get the peak. He's on a sliver of HP, and the rest of Unique are there to back it up. Kitsune comes into the fray, and he should be able to spot the angle here, but no! That's a number! Online! Falls it down, no, it's just Yasha there! Is he going to be able to push around the edge of the smoke? He hasn't spotted it. Online is still alive. He is still going. And Yasha's low. He goes 24/7! All day, every day! Mega alive once more!
That's why he was able to clutch this fight out and eliminate Team Unique. Top Esports, on the other hand, they were moving in as a third party and they were getting kills left, right and center. They had 14 kills before the final circle even popped. Entity lost 2 of their players earlier to Illuminate. This was like in around 3rd or the 4th circle. They lost 2 of their players to Illuminate, but luckily they were saved because Bigetron started to fight with Illuminate and hence Entity were able to get away from safety. The 2 remaining players from Entity, they were then eliminated by RRQ with a really well-placed nade.
He sends it to the grill, he sends it out through the door! Huge! Ernie lands it.
But then even in that fight, Top Esports played a hand. They managed to steal a kill away from RRQ. The final fight took place between Bigetron, RRQ and Top Esports, and RRQ went out third. Zuxi from Bigetron had an amazing performance. Zuxi alone had 7 kills for himself, and he was the only person who was fragging on his team. Everyone else on Bigetron Esports had 0 kills. Zuxi had 7, so that shows how amazing of a player he is, and he clutched the chicken dinner for his team.
Hope from Top Esports, the push is coming through. He wants to go for the fight. He's going out wide. 32 bullets in the mag. Is it going to be enough to take him down? Luxy takes a tumble. Zuxi over the top, and it's Bigetron. I don't believe it! They come back in swinging. 7 kills, all in the name of Zuxi.
Bigetron were on a roll as they win their 2nd chicken dinner in a row. This time for a change on Erangel, the plane path and the circle was rather balanced. It went from Sovereignty to military base straight down, circle was in the center, and that's why a lot of teams got plenty of time to loot peacefully. We only saw them rotate in the 2nd or 3rd circle when the circle started moving towards the open field of Katka, and after that point it was a mad rush for compounds. And we saw most of the teams go for central positions this time instead of playing around the edges. Entity were all over the map trying to hunt for compounds in every place, but almost all of them were occupied, and that's why we saw Entity abandoning plenty of fights halfway and then backing off. But in that process, they lost a lot of resources, which would come to bite them in the back later on. While Entity were roaming around, we saw Kurt Squad also did the same thing, but then the reasons of both these teams were different. Entity was just looking for a safe compound to hold, meanwhile Kurt Squad, they are really lagging behind on points, and that's why Kurt Squad was roaming around, desperately looking for kills and points everywhere. But then that mad rush left them with nothing, and Kurt Squad was eliminated as they tried to push into U2's compound. Unicorn Gaming got impatient, they got into their cars and rushed straight into the ditch of Team Queso, and they rushed straight to their deaths. Meanwhile, Top Esports, SouL, and the remainder of EGC fought each other while running from the zone in a messy fight where Top Esports and SouL got eliminated, and EGC2 got picked off by Cloud9, who lapped up the remaining kills. The 6th circle came in, and at this point there were really less places left to hide. Orange Esports tried to push Bigetron, but then Bigetron were able to decimate them in the middle of their rush. And while that was happening, 2 players of Queso got into their cars and decided to go on a row rampage. It was insane.
For BTR, but now here comes the rest of Team Queso. Oh, they finish off U2K! Oh no, Axel, what a play from Team Queso!
Bigetron held onto their cover using busted up cars and haystacks, and held that area like a fortress to register their 2nd chicken dinner win in a row.
As well, Luxy going to be starting his onslaught on his way track. Does he connect? Oh, he gets one shot! He takes it!
Back-to-back chicken dinners!
By the time Game 9 on Weekendy ended, Bigetron Esports had set a new record by winning 3 chicken dinners in a row. A hat-trick from Bigetron Esports, and they have taken an undeniable lead on the 2nd day of PMCO Fall Split Global Finals. As always, Weekendy games are chaotic and all the players were alive in a very small play zone. The first big team fight took place between U2 and Kurt Squad. U2 were able to get a knockdown, and as soon as that happened, they rushed. But they made a few mistakes while rushing in terms of nading and trade fragging. Baby from Kurt Squad was able to clutch out a 1 vs 2 fight and eliminate U2. Mega Conquerors were keeping an eye on this battle, and they were looking for the right moment to third party. So as soon as Baby finished his clutch and they eliminated U2, Mega Conquerors rushed their compound and they were able to finish off Kurt Squad. Meanwhile, Bigetron established dominance by team wiping all rejection without any difficulty at all. We already saw Mega Conquerors had secured some points by eliminating Kurt Squad, and then after that they were just handed more points for free as Top Esports drove into their crosshairs, and Top Esports got eliminated in a matter of seconds at the hands of Mega Conquerors. After all that fighting, Mega was weakened and they lost 3 of their players in a fight against Team Queso. Pons was hiding from Queso on the upper floor and he held his ground. He tried to escape, and as soon as that happened, SouL decided to enter the fray and third party, but then they messed up the fight, and they messed up big time. SouL got decimated by Team Queso. Bigetron rotated around the windmills beautifully, and they picked their fights wisely. That's what allowed them to win their 3rd chicken dinner in a row.
They know they want the
Here
kill
it
points.
comes. They have to play this one smart. Trade it out. There's one more though. Ayla finishes the job as well. It's down to the 1 versus 1. He hasn't done it. It's going to be Luxy taking it out 3 in a row from Bigetron. Holy cow.
The last game of day 2, and it has been a tradition in PMCO that the last games are always the most entertaining ones. This time on Erangel, we saw 4 teams land in military base. EGC and Kurt Squad lost some of their players at the very beginning, but then the teams were still alive. The big fights only started happening after the 3rd circle when the play zone shrank upon south of Pochinki. As the military-based teams rotated towards the main island, one of the players from Unicorn stayed hidden on the bridge and he just gathered information. Once he had enough information, Unicorn regrouped together and pushed EGC to eliminate them. Bigetron were once again in the nasty business of stealing kills. Entity engaged Illuminate the Murder in a road war, but then even though those teams were fighting, Bigetron Esports killed some of the players from Entity Gaming who were knocked down and stole points away. Bigetron also got plenty of other kills, especially Zuxi. Before the last game even started, Zuxi had 22 kills to his name, which makes it one of the highest kill counters in the entire tournament. He added even more to his name when he single-handedly killed 2 players from Cloud9. As the 5th circle closed, very few compounds remained, and Top Esports captured prime real estate, which would help them a lot later on. Unicorn tried to crash them, but Top Esports defended it really well. In some other part of the map, SouL started fighting Queso, and while they were fighting Queso, they were third-partied by All Rejection. All Rejection managed to steal a few kills away from SouL, and they were the ones who killed the remaining players of Queso. SouL disengaged, and they went away to safety. Mega Conquerors came along over there, and they challenged All Rejection to a fight in which Mega Conquerors won. And while Mega Conquerors was still camping in that area, recovering and regrouping, they were challenged by their arch nemesis from Southeast Asia, Bigetron Esports. Mega Conquerors and Bigetron, both these teams have been one of the best from Southeast Asia, and they engaged in a bloody war. And while that was happening, even Top Esports tried to get a piece of the action, and they managed to get a few kills onto the players of Mega Conquerors. But Bigetron Esports, they still had plenty of their players alive. Realizing that Bigetron were in a tough spot, they did a ballsy push by getting into their cars and rushing straight to assault their enemies. But even so, Top Esports had the play zone upon them, they had more players alive, and they had a compound as well. And the trifecta of all these things got Top Esports their second chicken dinner win of the day.
Does it connect to the guys from years? Does it connect? No, it does not. It just clips off the edge of the car. But now, 1v3. Can Suxy do it?
That looks like a good grenade. Let's see if it lands. Oh, I don't think it's gone far enough here, Terrence. Oh, yeah, just going to explode in front of the vehicle. And below the vehicle is Top Esports. Look at the elation on their faces as they take yet another chicken dinner.
Top Esports, fantastic performance.
Well, that was it from our side today. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more PMCO highlights and quality PUBG Mobile content. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.